What's up everyone, Carol K here. I am extremely happy to be back. A lot of you have messaged me and asking me, where have you been? It's been like 4 months, we haven't heard any new music. Are you okay? Is everything all right? Yes, I am totally 100% all right. Just decided to take a step back and kind of get a 30,000 foot view of my life and my goals, and just found that there were many areas in my world that were needing my attention, and just decided to start tackling everything one by one and fixing those areas to kind of just be a little bit more in balance. So with all that said, I'm really excited to bring you this 2-part tutorial series where we're going to be remixing, remastering, and releasing this 12-song acoustic cover compilation album, which is the Covers Volume 2. And I have hired an expert mix engineer who has taken this project under his wing, and he was kind enough to show us exactly what he did to remix and remaster one of the songs from the album. His name is Austin Hull, and he's an amazing producer, mix, and mastering engineer from the Make Pop Music YouTube channel, which you can actually find the link right below. So thank you again, Austin, and an extra thank you to DistroKid for being extra patient with me and waiting for my return to come back and make these videos for you. Thank you all again so much for waiting for me. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Here we go.
What's up everybody, it's Austin here from Make Pop Music, Austin Hull Audio and Visual and full-time music industry, and today I just kind of wanted to go over how to mix an acoustic pop song. So for this song, this is going to be Fool to Care by Carol K. It's a cover that she's releasing on a compilation. I had the pleasure of mixing all of them, and it was super fun because it's a little different from what I normally get to do. Normally I'm working with, really big projects that have tons and tons of tracks, but most of these were either piano and vocals or guitar and vocals, and some of them were piano and guitar and vocals. So we're going to look at Fool to Care today, and that one's just piano and vocals. So I kind of want to go over how I treated the piano and the vocals in this song, the leads, the backgrounds, all of that stuff, because when you're mixing a song that's only got a couple tracks like this, it's really easy to mess up one thing, and it kind of skews the whole track and just makes the whole mix a little messy. So we're going to kind of dive in and see everything that I did. I'll kind of walk you through the entire process. Like I said, just piano and vocals. We'll go over the piano, the lead vocal, and then the background vocals are all kind of the same chain. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into this. Okay, so you'll see right here we've got the piano. I can actually drag this in a sense, and we've got the lead vocal. So let's go ahead and take a listen to how this sounded without anything on it, just as the stems were. So Carol did a really great job of performing this, and they were recorded really well as well. So it's not going to sound too bad by itself. A lot of this was just tweaking the stuff that she did really well and just enhancing that. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the raw.
I was a fool to care. I was a fool to care. I was a fool to care. Oh, but I don't care, even if I was a fool. I'm still in love with you. Had I listened to the grapevine, I might have had my doubts.
Cool, so you can see, of course these are already leveled in my session, so we'll kind of go over how I leveled everything and matched all of that. But let's go ahead and turn all of this back on, and while I'm doing that, I'll kind of just give you a little bit of rundown on what my thought process was. So I knew that this piano needed to have body, but it also needed to not be super boomy and muddy. So it was a nice little challenge of getting that full bottom in, getting that round bottom in without it really overpowering everything in the track. And then I knew that the lead vocals needed to cut really well, but I also had to have those backgrounds tucked under there nice. And so when you're in a song where the arrangement is super dense, it's really easy to just kind of tuck the background vocals under, throw some reverb on them, and they're normally sitting pretty. For this one, normally I would actually do my background vocals a little different processing, but since we needed all of these vocals to match up with that piano, the background vocals are actually almost the exact same chain as the lead vocal. So we'll hop into that, but first let's actually take a look at this piano. So here's it as it was. Sounds good. It sounds like any solid VST piano. I think she used Alicia's keys from Native Instruments. So the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted a little bit of width, and I wanted some EQ. So I put on this Neve 1073 from UAD, and they actually had a piano enhancer setting. So I selected that preset and then just kind of tweaked it a little bit. So I left the line and the gain at 0. I didn't want to really change any of that. So this was the first thing I did, is I added this nice little boost right here. So I'll kind of show you. Just gives me some of that nice bright top end. And I like the 1073 because the top end and the bottom end are both really, really tight. And they're not really going to do too much. So it's not super bright and brittle, but it's just enough to give me that little sizzle on the top of the piano. And then I just dragged some of these mids out here, I believe at like 700. And that was really just to make room for those vocals. You know, just piano alone, you could probably leave it, but I wanted some room for the vocals, so I dragged it down a couple dB. And then the last thing was I boosted this right here. So boosted some low end, gave it that body, and it stopped it from being rumbly. Now where this EQ really comes in is hitting the phase button, so this is without it. So as you can see, when I enable that phase button, it really gives that piano some width. It sounds like it was recorded in an actual room, kind of has that stereo vibe. It sounds like it was recorded on a pair of microphones instead of just one mono source. So that was all I did for the EQ on the piano, kept it really, really simple and light. And then I just threw on Verb Suite, and I threw on a piano hole setting, mixed it into right here. Just to give it some depth. It just added a little bit of depth and a little bit of length to some of the sustained notes. So that was really all I did for the piano. So again, here's it with nothing. So that EQ and the EQ and the reverb are really just giving it some depth and some character, because it sounded a little stale, just straight out of the box. So let's go ahead and take a look at the lead vocal.
Oh, but I don't care, even if I was a fool.
So really, really well recorded. She sent them to me. They were already tuned and edited and everything like a gem. So the first thing I wanted to do is I really wanted like an analog vibe to this. I was going with it with like an Adele kind of approach where, you know, if I was recording this in London at somewhere, you know, with a big console, I would kind of want to have some of that character. So what I did was I used a lot of like analog modeled plugins. So let me just kind of go over what I did first with this 1073, so this Neve right here. So I dragged a lot of the low end out here.
To care, I was a fool to care.
So there was a lot of like tubby low mids in there, like especially around the 200 region. So I dug like 5 dB out. And then I dug a little bit of like the 1K out just because it was a little nasally. I'll kind of show you.
I was a fool to care.
So the vocals were really, really bright. I'm assuming they recorded on something like a classic Neumann or something like that. Maybe like a Telefunken. I don't know. They sound super bright and they have a lot of that low end. They sound amazing, but they just needed to be tweaked a little bit. So I drug some of that, like,
but I don't care,
what is this, like 6K? Yeah.
even if I was a fool.
And then I just drug this high shelf down because they were still really bright and they were having some sibilance to them. So I just drug that down like 3 dB. And then I threw on a compressor.
I'm still in love with you. Had I listened to the grapevine,
So, you know, just a classic 76 style compressor, the vintage one, to give it some of that character. So I didn't want to do a whole lot of compression. I really like the dynamics in this vocal, especially with that piano. I didn't want them to be over compressed like a pop vocal or anything. So I set the attack right around 3. Of course, the release all the way up for the vocals. And then I had the mix at 100. I didn't really want to do any parallel compression or anything with that. Ratio at 4. I mean, it's a pretty standard setting for vocals. You know, you could use this and then just drive it to get more dB if you were doing like a really, really dense pop mix or something like that. So that's it with the EQ.
I might have had my doubts, but I did my level best just to...
And as you can see, that kind of adds some more of that low end back in there. So that's why I actually went in so heavy with this low end scooping over here, was because this compressor was adding quite a bit to it. And then the last thing, I just have VCC, just so it kind of gets some of that analog console feel. I have the British 4K G series.
I was a fool to care. Oh, but I don't care,
And this plugin is pretty simple. You really just control the input and output, and they're actually slave to each other. So you can just control how much you're peaking here, and that'll kind of control the saturation and the harmonics on the top end of that. And then I put my drive at like 6 dB. I didn't want to do...
Even if I was a fool.
Didn't want anything crazy, but I still wanted a little bit of that character. And then, so that's it for that. Then I went in with Pro Q and just kind of tightened some stuff up. So I got rid of all the low-end rumble. And then, like I said, there were some peaky frequencies right around here.
With you.
So as you can tell, they're like really, really woofy. I think there might have been maybe like a room sound or like a room mode or something in that area. Scooped out a little bit of the 400. I genuinely hate 400 hertz. It's super, super boxy and muddy to me. And then there's another room mode like right around this 500 area that was nasty.
Fine.
Just had like a really telephonic effect and I wasn't vibing it. And then scooped a little bit of these high mids out.
I might have had my doubts, but I did my level best just to block them out. Why?
It's just like a really piercing, high-end kind of, not even like a hiss, but it's more of like just like a piercing, no good sound. So this 4.5K was a little brittle right here, so I drugged some of that out. And then I just scooped like half a dB out of 11 because I was getting some of that sibilance and I was going to hit a de-esser, but I wanted it just taken out a little bit throughout the entire song. So that's the EQ. Here's it without it.
But I did my level best just to block them out.
So we're just controlling some of those mids and low mids really with that, doing nothing super, super crazy. Then a de-esser just on the female wideband preset, and then I just kind of mess with the threshold. You'll see.
'Cause love is so unwise.
Getting like 3 to 5 dB of de-essing reduction. Then I added a 2A, just another classic vocal compressor. This one's just kissing it again.
And love has no eyes, and it took a while for a fool.
You'll see it on some of the harder parts.
What her friends
Like right here,
wrong
it'll get a
about.
couple dB.
'Cause I was a fool to care.
So I literally just wanted it on some of those peaks. Like I said, I didn't want to overcompress this vocal at all. And then I just stacked one last de-esser in a different area just to kind of get rid of all of that. So now let's get into some of the sauce for this. Let's get into the actual sends. So the reverb send was Verb Suite on the concert hall. I wanted a longer hall style reverb on this. So I have 2 seconds-ish on the concert hall. Drug the pre-delay up, drug the attack way up just to get it out of the way of that main vocal. And then I've got Pro Q filtering out the low end and the high end just so we're getting some of those nice, really luscious mids. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Fool to care. I was a fool to care. I was a fool to care. Oh, but I don't care. Even if I was a fool.
So I really like that that reverb for that. Then we have a short delay, which is just a room sound just to give us some of that like she tracked in a live room kind of vibe. 700 milliseconds. It's just the small vocal room from the BM7. 100% wet. Drug up the pre-delay just to get it out of my way a little bit. And let's go ahead and take a listen to how that one sounded.
I'm still in love with you. Had I listened to the grapevine.
So it's just giving me a little bit of width on that main vocal. Nothing super crazy at all. And then let's see. We have a stereo vocal delay. I didn't use delays a ton in this because delays to me sound really digital. So I really just have this tucked under just to give the reverb some extra tail. It's a 1/8 delay because we're at 70 BPM. So I needed a faster delay for such a slower tempo. Of course, 100% wet, filter out the low, filter out the high. And then, of course, filter it out again just so it's mids. And then I just drug that reverb send, the vocal long send, up a ton on that. Just so we're not really getting any dry delay sound. That delay is really just feeding back into itself to help that reverb kind of have some extra tail.
I was a fool to care. I was a fool to care. I was a fool to.
So as you can see, we're doing everything very subtly. And after I kind of run through everything, I'll pop the full mix on just so you can kind of hear. Last thing was I did a slap delay, just, you know, cancel out the phase on the left, drug the delay to like 72 milliseconds. This could be a longer little slap delay. Normally I would do something closer along the lines of like 30, but this just worked for the song. And then cut out a little bit of high, cut out a little bit of low. Of course, 100% dry wet. Let's go ahead and mix that into the main vocal.
You care, oh, but I don't care, even if I was a fool.
So again, just mixed in subtly.
I'm still in love with you.
So let's hear now.
I was a fool to care. I was a fool to care. I was a fool to care. Oh, but I don't care, even if I was a fool.
So I played around. I have this right here. I turned it off. I kind of played around with the idea of sidechaining the reverb to it. It was cool. I didn't really need it that much because the reverb ended up being so subtle. I just had it there just in case we did something really drastic. But that was basically it for that. So, I mean, that's the piano and that's the main vocal. Then as you can see, the background vocal is basically the same exact thing. I just added C4 on these background vocals to scoop some of those low mids out. And that was basically the only difference. And then I changed the send, just however much reverb and delay we were getting on those. So let me just solo out the background vocals for you.
I'm still in love with you. Had I listened to the grapevine.
So we have the main vocal at like plus 1 dB, and then these are minus 13, so we're getting like a 14 dB difference between the mains and the first set of background harmonies, and these are panned. So here, let me actually match these up. So we've got background 1, which is 100% left, and background 2, which is 100% right. And then we've got background 3, which is like 77% right, 77% left, 50% left, 50% right. And then I did the same thing with the oohs and ahs, 100, 100. And then I kept ooh number 3 just in the center because we had 3 of them. So I went center 100, 100, just LCR, standard panning. And then for the echo, I did 60% left, 60% right, 77% left, 77% right. And then just for the levels, minus 13, minus 13, minus 13, minus 13, minus 13, minus 13, minus 16, almost minus 17, minus 17, minus 13, minus 8.5, minus 7.5, minus 15, minus 15. So I wanted these background vocals, they needed to kind of nest in almost like a choir. So I didn't need to do crazy leveling. Like I didn't need one set of harmonies way over the other. They kind of all needed to sit in that same space. That's why most of them are just this minus, 13.5 dB, is because they were working really well together there, as you can see.
Still in love with you.
So right before we end this out, we're gonna close this out really quick. I just want to kind of show you the last part where we have almost everything going. We've got most of the backgrounds going. We've got the piano going. It's softened up a little bit. We did some volume automation.
I was a fool to care. I was a fool to care. I was a fool. You ain't nothing but a fool to care. I was a fool, just a country fool to care. I was a fool. You ain't nothing but a fool to care. I was a fool, just a country fool to care. I was a fool. You ain't nothing but a fool to care. I was a fool, just a country fool to care. I was a fool. You ain't nothing but a fool to care. I was a fool, just a country fool to care.
And that's literally the entire mix from start to finish. The only thing is that I, of course, went in and did some volume automation, and I had a master chain on it that was, I believe the master chain was Slate VBC with actually, let me see, I can tell you real quick. Yep, VBC red on the master. Linear phase multiband on just electro mastering. It's literally just the preset that I use on everything. And then Pro L, I used detailed acoustic and then drug it down half a dB so we're not peaking on any platforms or anything like that. And then just gave it a gain boost to where needed. I didn't master this super loud. We have this pretty...
Was a freight train just moving on down.
Like between like minus 10 and minus 11 kind of RMS for the whole thing. And then that was it. That was literally the entire mix. It was super quick to do all these mixes. They were pretty simple, but it just goes to show that one wrong move on an EQ or one wrong move on a compressor will completely ruin the entire mix. So with stuff like this, it's better to just go in small detail. It's better to do a lot of little things and just kind of stack them up to where you need to go. So that's why there's multiple compressors that are barely doing anything. That's why there's multiple EQs that are barely doing anything. Is these stems sounded amazing on their own, but they just needed those little basic tweaks. And, you know, if you compress too much in one area or you EQ too little in one area, it just all starts to fall apart. So hopefully this is helpful if you're ever mixing something that's just guitar and vocals or piano and vocals or, you know, like a choir arrangement or anything like that. I hope this was super helpful.
Thank you all so much for watching, and an extra thank you to DistroKid for sponsoring this album release. DistroKid is an amazing platform, especially for independent musicians. They're the only company that offers a very low yearly membership fee, which basically allows you to have an unlimited amount of original song releases on pretty much every single music platform that you can think of. They've been kind enough to give me a special URL discount for my viewers, and that link is right below. Be sure to check them out, and thank you again to all of you for watching this. Thank you, Austin, for making this amazing video for my viewers. Take care.